Hey guys, welcome to Rickey's Corner. Thank you for tuning in. I want to welcome you guys to episode 5. We're going to focus on current events today for episode 5 on Rickey's Corner. And something that's really meant a lot to me in terms of a conversation, a discussion, and that is the American dream. So I was writing a lot of stuff down, and sometimes I get into a flow and I just keep writing. So after I finished writing this stuff, I figured, hey, you know what? Let me share this with you guys. So what I want you guys to do is just bear with me because I'm probably going to have to read some stuff out. And I'm going to put some closed captioning in there so you guys can follow what I'm saying. And then I'm going to kind of free flow a little bit afterwards. There's a lot of things I just want to get off my chest here a little bit. So first, the title of this episode 5 for current events is the pipe dream that is the so-called American dream. The truth about wage stagnation and the cost of living. So I asked you guys, what is the American dream? Have you heard about the American dream? What does the American dream mean to you? Take a few seconds and ponder that for a moment. What is the American dream? What does that mean to you? Now here's my takeaway. What's happened to the American dream? Where if you work hard and play by the rules, you and better yet your children will achieve that great American dream. You know, the dream with the nice house, with 2 nice cars, the picket fence, the solid career or steady job with great benefits, the union, the stability, the family pets, the kids going to good schools and attending 4-year universities, then traveling with your spouse or partner, carefree as the kids get out of the house. What's happened to that? Then being able to retire as your 401k has accumulated into several $100,000s or more. What's happened to that American dream? Do you turn on your social and news medium of choice and hear about the booming economy? Do you hear the monthly job reports, the news media, and certain political pundits, especially Republicans, talk about how great the economy is? Do you hear about how great the stock market has done in certain peaks within the last couple of years? Now let me ask you the right type of questions. Questions you should really be asking yourself and asking these folks. Okay? Do you feel it in your pocketbook? Do you feel it in your paycheck? When you go to the store? When you have to pay your bills? When you have to take care of your daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly necessities? Do you have enough money to put away for your kids' college? Do you have enough money to save for a down payment and closing costs to own your own home? Or are you overwhelmed, in fact, with the rising rent increases? Can you afford those deductions of your paycheck for a 401k to retire one day and be able to breathe a little? If you had an emergency right now, do you have an emergency fund or some basic savings to help you and your family get through the emergency? Do you still owe money off that for-profit college that left you heavy in debt? Or for any college, be it 2 years or 4 years? And that degree, despite that massive debt that you have accumulated, has that finally worked out for you the way you dreamed, the way you thought that it would help you one day? Do you have health insurance? Can you even afford health insurance with its rising premiums, its rising deductibles, and co-insurance? Despite having insurance, can you still afford the medications if you have a pre-existing condition, especially if those drugs are specialty type of drugs or non-preferred? We haven't even discussed eyewear nor dental work. Can someone please help me understand the cost of a root canal? Or crowns? Or God forbid if your kid needs braces? How about this question? Can you afford basic child care? Do you have to get some state and federal help like 4C, WIC, Medicaid, SNAP, or Lifeline? What about the senior citizen who doesn't even have Medicare yet? Can they afford to get insurance? And if so, can they afford to get medications? What about those that aren't even eligible for Medicare? And we haven't even talked about the extras. You know, the extras that they talk about. Living a balanced life. Ah, yes, they call it wellness, or get some R&R. You know, take some time off and go on a vacation. Go to those parks, go on a cruise, travel a little, maybe splurge a little bit and get some nice clothes, some nice shoes, go out to eat. Maybe join a gym, a yoga class, that circuit class. Or maybe join the great outdoors for an adventure. Not understanding the basic fundamental truth that you need money to do most of these things. If not for all these things, that sacrifices have to be made. A budget must be paramount to everything you practically do. That people, families must join resources and their time together so that ends could be met, let alone have some time for extra stuff. All the while, ladies and gentlemen, the wealthy, the rich, the folks who drive these businesses, the big companies, the tech companies, they get richer and richer and richer. That gap between rich and poor keeps growing and growing, shrinking and shrinking the middle class. While you keep having to work longer hours, adding part-time gigs on the side, taking that extra shift. If they let you take it, because God forbid, you're allowed to get any overtime nowadays. All the while you find yourself stretching that last dollar, that last cent, as far as it can go. While the true elites can't stop tripping over themselves from every fancy high-speed vehicle they own, or that second or third house, which are more like super steroid-like mansions, those extra yachts, and oh yeah, they're private airplanes, because God forbid they have to fly commercial like the rest of us. You know, the common folk, in fear of catching a common folk disease. I know this booming economy is a false narrative. I know it, and you know it. Why? Because we have lived it, or we're living it right now, or we know someone who's living it, or has lived that. A friend, a work colleague, a family member, a college buddy, a neighbor, a stranger is living this false narrative right now. Staying up late at night and thinking, what is it that I have to do to get my family ahead? Yep. It's pretty much fake news, to borrow a phrase from a very well-known reality character who's presiding at La Casa Blanca right now. The real premise, ladies and gentlemen, should be the fake American dream and the cost of living and how you have adjusted or how you're going to adjust. So how can we make adjustments to the cost of living? The hard truth is that our wages remain flat, while services like gas, electricity, or housing keep going up, up, and up. The rising cost of food products like milk, meat, they're doubling and tripling in price. So how can we maintain, let alone get ahead? Due to company buyouts, mergers, cutbacks, or streamlining as they call it, real people suffer. Real people suffer. There are real consequences. Early last year, something like this affected me and a whole lot of people. My role had changed, and as a result, I essentially got a $5 plus an hour pay cut. Almost 10 grand wiped out like that. This put me back 5 years as to where I was before with a different company. 5 years. This makes no sense. To be earning less than 5 years ago is ridiculous. I have recently been aware of very similar things happening to people that I know, and this is what's triggered this conversation for me. After years of loyal, hard-working, productive service, for all practical purposes they were let go, or faced the humiliation of not so very good options in terms of keeping their employment, but at a much lower rate, or on a different account, or in a different role. no control of their schedule, no voice to be heard. All this done suddenly, brutally, without any time to prepare. You get that? News. They woke up one day thinking it was a regular day, and before you know it, by the end of the day, like their whole lives had just changed. Like that. Like if people had no lives outside of work. As if there were no childcare responsibilities, spousal or household responsibilities, rent, mortgages, or bills to pay. The rest of us that were left, no guarantee, no certainty, no stability. So we could be next. They call it a reduction in force, budget decisions. But I doubt very much that the top executives are taking one for the team. Massive and rapid fire changes in technology, automation, artificial intelligence, the global economy, and the consumer service-driven economy are some crucial factors in the furiously growing disparity in income inequality between the rich and the poor, driving the middle class, which made this country great last century in terms of the economy, off the precipice. The middle class has undeniably shrunk and is continuing to shrink. I fear for our children and grandchildren unless something dramatic starts to turn the tide. My wife and I had to make significant changes. And although things have gotten better for both of us, respectively, we are still in a period of adjustment. We do this as we contemplate our daughter's future and dreams of helping her afford and enrolling into a top-level university. And of course, our retirement so we can finally enjoy life somewhat. Mulling all this, planning, making tough moves, all the while we're managing the present. So I ask you, how do you cope? What changes do you have to make? What changes have you made? How have you coped? Do you think things will start changing for the better? Do you really think that things will change for the better? Where there is real, sustained wage growth for the working class. You get that? Real wage growth. Purchasing power. Where we can not only keep up with the inflation or the cost of living, but actually start to live and get some breathing room at the same time? Or are we moving dangerously closer to a world of corporate slavery, where the lords totally rule the servants and we're totally at their mercy? So again, I ask you, what's happened to that American dream, where if you work hard, you play by the rules, you can get ahead in life, where you're better off than your parents were, where you can give your kids and grandkids a better opportunity? So I ask you again, what's happened to the American dream? That sense that we will be better off than our parents, and that our kids and grandkids will be better off than us. So I'm glad I got that off my chest, guys. And I just want to show you guys a couple of things here. I was reading this article by Fortune, and the article is called The Shrinking Middle Class. The Shrinking Middle Class, again, by Fortune, the Fortune magazine. And this was written by the Fortune staff on December 20th, 2018. And I just want to go over a few things here. So, the United States, our wonderful country, is a middle-class nation, a working-class nation, founded by middle-class ideals. Sure, we root for the guy to make it big. Sure, I don't think anyone really, as it gets anyone making it all the way to the top. Like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, right? We all want to be successful and wealthy and all that entails. No one's against that. But we're also talking about the majority, and the majority's power in the middle class, that status, that is fading. So it's only really becoming rich by the top 1% really, and then the poor, shrinking that middle class. So I want to go over a definition by Richard Reeves, who's a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution and director of its Future of the Middle Class Initiative. So basically he's an economist and social scientist. And so he defined middle class this way. This is his definition of the middle class. You're middle class if you have 2 refrigerators. You have a new one in your kitchen and you have an old one in your garage or basement where you can keep that beer. So, do you fit that description? Do you have a new refrigerator in your kitchen? Do you have an old refrigerator in your basement or in your garage with some beer, some wine, whatever? Also, he points this out, okay, and this is really, really important. Check out this number right here, $23.68. That's $23.68. And let me explain that. So, non-supervisors, okay, on average, make about $23 per hour. Okay, on average, $23 per hour. Okay, this was as of 2018. A fact that the Pew Researching Center gives today's workers slightly less purchasing power than those in January of 1973. Once inflation is factored in, it comes out to be $23.68 in 2018. So let me read that again because it's really important, okay? Non-supervisors, on average, make about $23 an hour, okay, as of 2018. A fact that the Pew Researching Center gives today's workers slightly less purchasing power than those in January of 1973. Once inflation is factored in, which is like $23.68 in 2018. So basically that's what this means. Okay? So even if you make $23 an hour, you still have less buying power than those people back in 1973. And that's what I've been saying all along. Our dollar doesn't stretch the way it used to. We can't buy as much as we used to. Everything has to be such a decision. You know, we got to make sacrifices for this, for that, for that. We don't really have that much breathing room left. So this booming economy that they talk about is a false narrative. Okay? Do you feel it in your paycheck? Do you live paycheck to paycheck? Because I tell you what, my eyes really opened up when our president forced a government shutdown where 800,000 federal workers were not paid for over a month. And these folks admitted that a lot of them live paycheck to paycheck. And I thought federal workers, wow, that's middle class right there, right? Because they got a good wage, they got great benefits, right? They got the status, you know, federal worker. And yet many of them were really suffering because they admitted to living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of them didn't even have an emergency fund. That's something to really think about. I also want to go over this number. Okay, so a Harris poll conducted by Career Builder performed a survey of U.S. workers across the business landscape. So it's pretty diverse. In 2017, out of 3,500 respondents, 40%, almost half, said they always or usually live paycheck to paycheck. So what do if that paycheck doesn't come through on that pay period? What do? So basically I want to wrap things up with that said. Again, what is your definition of the middle class? And what does that mean to you? I want to wrap everything up. Again, check it out, episode 5, current events. Also, take some time out to check out my other episodes. Episode 4, which focuses on sports, but a conversation about diversity in Major League Baseball. Got episode 3, which focuses on politics and 2020 Democratic presidential candidates. Of course, there's been a lot more since then. Episode 2, which I focus on the diversity in terms of Oscar nominations, Golden Globe nominations, and winners. And episode 1, which is really a combination of all 3 topics of sports, politics, and current events. Again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate all the feedback, the support. If you like this video, you like everything about what Rickey's Corner stands for, feel free to subscribe, share, like, and also check out Rickey's Modern Man Evolution. I'm working on perhaps creating a different playlist for that, and there's more to come on Rickey's Modern Man Evolution as I focus on the growth of myself as an individual, as a father, as a dog owner, as a lot of things. So more to come on that. Again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And usually I make a book recommendation. Really quickly, I'm going to recommend a show. It's called Matter of Fact with Soledad O'Brien. Check it out. It's great stuff. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, always be in the know, right? Are you listening? Are you seeing? Are you in the know? What's going on? All right, guys. Till next time.